This is Plant-Based Briefing, V for Vegan, Mantra for Sustainability by Dr. Sailesh Rao at climatehealers.org. And I'm Marian Erickson. This is the Plant-Based Podcast where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based, vegan, eco-friendly living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. Think of it as your daily dose of inspiration for your healthy, compassionate, and sustainable lifestyle. So now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. V for Vegan, Mantra for Sustainability by Sailesh Rao at climatehealers.org. Quote, "Great things are done by a series of small things brought together," unquote. Vincent van Gogh. There are two kinds of people, out vegans and closeted vegans. We know this empirically because in all our interactions with people over the past 18 years at Climate Healers, we have never met a single person who would deliberately hurt an innocent animal unnecessarily. The conventional theory of change is that in order for the vegan movement to grow, the out vegans must reach out to the closeted vegans and convince them through the health, environmental, ethical, and spiritual aspects of veganism to come out of the closet and act on their true feelings regarding the systematic and unnecessary exploitation of animals, including humans, on Planet A. During my visit to India, my interactions with out vegans in India have convinced me that we may have this backwards. Our number one task is not to convince closeted vegans to come out, but to convince out vegans to be proud while out so that they become better ambassadors for the vegan movement. At the Vegan Convergence of the Peoples number 20, VCOP, Captain Paul Watson made a startling revelation about a new children's book that he's writing called Starship Earth. He said, "Starship Earth needs engineers, and we have them. These engineers keep everything running, maintaining all of the systems. We humans, we are not engineers, we are passengers. We're having a great time amusing ourselves, entertaining ourselves. But what we are doing is we are killing the engineers. We are committing murder on all of these engineers. We are wiping them out, the bees and the trees and the fish and the microbes and the fungi." In that telling, Starship Earth would be better off without humans. During my talk in Mysuru, India the other day, I asked the audience to raise their hand if they thought our planet would be better off without humans, and to my horror, almost every out vegan in the audience did. When I first watched Earthlings in early 2009, I too was ashamed to be a member of my species and thought the same way about humans. Therefore, I'm not surprised that out vegans who have informed themselves about the cruel reality of animal husbandry are not too enamored of our species. However, as Dr. Baruch pointed out at VCOP 20, it is extremely important that we get over that quickly and begin to love ourselves and our species to become effective changemakers. The Climate Healers story is that we humans are also engineers, not just passengers on Starship Earth. We are doing the difficult job of installing a climate control system so that Starship Earth does not go in and out of glaciation, largely frozen stiff except around the equatorial midriff for 90,000 out of every 100,000 years. 3 decades ago, when we acknowledged that humans are responsible for changing the climate and unbalancing the life support systems of the planet, we humans automatically became responsible for stabilizing the climate while rebalancing the life support systems of the planet. Yes, we have killed a lot of our fellow engineers and made a mess in the process, but we can and will clean up and make amends to our fellow engineers so that Starship Earth will benefit in the long run. It is important that we tell such a story to children so that they know and feel that they belong. It is equally important that all out vegans internalize such a story so that we know and feel that we belong. We must also know that humans belong as a species because nature is the perfect system design. It is only when we know and feel that we belong that we can truly shine our light and help others come out of the closet. Shining our light means seeing and highlighting the positive in people, and especially the news. Just last week, the Times of India openly proclaimed the V for Vegan mantra and highlighted the enormous impact of animal husbandry on the environment, attributing 66% of greenhouse gas emissions to the animal agriculture sector. It even wrote, if food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitting country in the world. Wow, I've been waiting to see something like that in a mainstream newspaper for nearly 2 decades. Better yet, the Economic Survey, which the V for Vegan article referenced, is by the Finance Ministry of the Indian government. In a recent paper, Hansen et al. Made a credible case that the IPCC has underestimated the cooling effects of SO2 aerosol emissions as well as the warming impact of CO2 emissions. They estimate the Charney sensitivity for CO2 doubling, the equilibrium temperature increase due to a doubling of the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere to be 4.5 degrees Celsius as opposed to the IPCC's estimate of 3 degrees Celsius. With that Hansen update, and including corrections to the IPCC's 3 mistakes in accounting that Gerard Bishop highlighted during his VCOP20 keynote speech, number 1, underaccounting land use change CO2 emissions by a factor of 3, number 2, undervaluing methane emissions by a factor of 3, and number 3, not counting cooling effects, the animal agriculture component of the effective radiative forcing, or ERF, rises to 66%, and the fossil fuel component nearly vanishes to 2%, implying that almost all the heating from fossil fuel combustion has been offset by the cooling effects. This means that a rapid phase-out of fossil fuel use will lead to an 87% increase in the anthropogenic global warming ERF on the planet, from 2.6 to 4.9 in a matter of weeks. The above pie charts reveal a vast gulf between how the IPCC frames the planet as being heated and our best engineering estimate on how it is actually being heated using the exact same data of the IPCC's 6th Assessment Report, AR6. Despite these differences, the IPCC would also admit that there is nothing that does not improve when we shut down the folly of animal husbandry and go vegan. Even The Guardian is acknowledging this fact, using phrases like essential to reduce the consumption of meat and dairy and huge impact of livestock production, though still downplaying the emissions numbers to 12 to 20%. Surely, how can something be essential to reduce and have a huge impact if it only caused 12 to 20% of the emissions? Despite such wink-wink, nudge-nudge journalism on this topic, The Guardian is slowly coming around to embrace a vegan movement that feels largely native in the global south. The Economic Survey of India states that nudging family, friends, and colleagues to a more sustainable dietary preference with moderation in lifestyles globally may be an idea whose time has come. But before we do such nudging, let us first become proud while out as vegans. Are you passionate about seeing a vegan world? Do you feel frustrated about the endlessly futile UN COPs where decision makers are dealing with our planetary fire as if they're Keystone cops spraying each other instead of the fire? Join us at the Vegan Convergence of the Peoples, VCOPs, where the real work of healing the planet is being done, where climate scientists, system engineers, media icons, vegan change makers, and other distinguished speakers will discuss making big change happen at the upcoming 21st VCOP event, April 26th and 27th, 2025. Register here for this Zoom, YouTube, Facebook VCOP21 event to be part of the conversation. Join us for making big change happen together. You just listened to V for Vegan, Mantra for Sustainability by Sailesh Rao at climatehealers.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. I always put a link to the original post in the show notes, and you can see the pie charts and links to some of the references and studies. I will also separately put a link to the VCOP event in April. It's free to attend. You can make a donation if you'd like, but it's not necessary. It's not required. You can attend and be able to submit questions and comments and be part of the chat, or you can just watch it on Facebook or YouTube. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.